In this video essay, I'm exploring connections between recreational water activities and how humans view and treat the water. So, how do people's interactions with water affect how they view and treat the water? Do they perceive the water as something that is alive? Do they respect the water or just think they do? I've included my interview questions followed along with a summarization of my most common answers or direct quotes I have re-recorded from said interviews.
Why are you here at this specific body of water?
There's a pretty even yet common divide amongst people's answers for this question. While many people were there to swim in these bodies of water, many people were just there to enjoy the bodies of water, whether by looking at it, tanning, or simply just being in that environment. People saw these waterfronts as a way to take a break from their day-to-day life, with some people using it as a day off work and others using it, and I quote, to escape the brain rot.
It's like a lot of the times the cold water feels so good when you're hungover. So I was like, I need to go to the water, and I feel so much better after. It's literally the best hangover cure ever. How have you been interacting with the water?
This second question, in a way, was kind of a follow-up to my first question. However, it was essential to my research to see how people were interacting with bodies of water and how they viewed their interactions. It was pretty common with people ranging from swimming and fully dunking in, to paddle boarding, to just simply tanning on the beach, looking at the water, looking at the waves, just listening to the noises.
Well, I haven't been interacting with the water, but I've been listening to the waves a lot. And then we were watching a seal too earlier. So I guess all of that, yeah. I think when we interact with the water, it's kind of like when you see it in front of you, you think about it more. So maybe in that way, yeah. Do you believe your actions today have any effect on this body of water?
Most people did not believe their actions today had any effect on the body of water. A few brought up littering and said, I don't do that, so I don't affect the water. Some people brought up certain types of sunscreen and lotion, talking about how they use mineral safe or how they don't think of that because it's not Hawaii, there's no coral reefs. A few people mentioned the butterfly effect and how possibly any action they have could have an impact or effect on the water just simply by being there. People were very quick to blame others, whether it was people or activities, such as boating with the pollution that comes from that and oil runoff, or other people littering and leaving trash in the water or near the water. But no one was ready to take direct accountability, or if they were, it was very passive.
I hope not anything detrimental, but I don't know, maybe a little bit with the movements and stuff. What is the appeal of this water to you? Does this give it worth?
People had a lot to say about the appeal of water. It was something they enjoyed talking about, why they enjoyed being at the water. However, it was the follow-up question that kind of tricked people. The water appealed to people because it was pretty. It was refreshing on a hot day where they could jump in or simply just dip their toes in. The water had community at the Montlake Cut and at Golden Gardens. People did say that the water did make them feel at peace, or it was there for certain celebrations, that sometimes you just needed a day by the water. Some people cited the availability and accessibility of the water as a reason, with many college students saying that the Montlake Cut was so close that it's the easiest for them to get to without a car or with a car. After all, it is about a 10-minute walk from campus, and as many people say, is very essential to the UW college experience. Yet another reason for its appeal. If everyone's going, why shouldn't you? Some people mentioned the views at Golden Gardens, saying that seeing the mountains in the back of the water, you don't get that anywhere else, and that is the main reason they come there. Whether it's for sunset or a day at the beach, it always looks pretty. A few people talked about the light on the water, with one person even quoting Virginia Woolf. However, when asked about worth, and if these appeals gave it worth, people were very divided. Many people just kind of said, yes, of course that these appeals give it worth, while others said, yes, what I find appealing about the water gives it worth, but it shouldn't be all just that. The water has worth regardless of what I think of it, regardless of what I get from it, regardless from what I take from it, which was very interesting and kind of exactly what I was hoping to hear. And some people said, no, this doesn't give it worth, and they either went on to say it just didn't have that worth, or it got worth just because it was there. The water doesn't have worth because of the appeals it has for humankind. It just has worth.
I think any body of water has its own value and worth. There's places where you live at a beach and you can't even go in the water. It's too cold. Like, I could go in the water if I wanted to, and in general, clean and all of that. It's not like there's a barrier to me getting in the water. Water has a lot of worth. I don't necessarily think its worth is just tied to what it can give me. Someone said the water chooses which light to reflect back to you. Saying it gives it worth is insulting because it gives so much more than just worth. Like, it's essential. I would say it's beautiful. Do you believe you owe the water something? If so, what?
Pretty much all across the board, people agreed that we owe the water respect, that they themselves had to respect the water. Many of these same people brought up conserving the water and preserving it. Quite a few people also brought up just being with the water, and that spending time there and learning about it, whether it's about the issues or simply the history of the waterfront, was also what we owed the water. But most people agreed that because the water can give us peace and respect, that we must give the water what we take from it back. There were a few surprising answers of people saying that they did not believe they owed the water anything. This made me think that people saw the water as something that is just take, 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 not a give and take, which was ironic considering some other answers to questions I received. It was honestly disappointing to hear people say they didn't believe they owed the water anything, as when coming up with this question, I really believed everyone would say respect and move on. This wasn't the only surprising answer, as some people also brought up fear here as a way to respect the ocean, citing their fear of the water and the damage it can do as a need to respect it.
What feelings does the water give you that land cannot?
People were divided amongst this question, which to me made sense for Seattleites. Most people said that the water was very peaceful and made them feel at peace, or it helped them feel free. People talked about having come to the water to kind of just sit and think, and how the water did this for them in ways that land could not. People even brought up how when hiking they look forward to bodies of water to dive into during the hike, and how, while the earth and forest and other naturey areas are more grounding, whereas water is a kind of peaceful bliss. However, some people were very adamant that they can get these same feelings that they get from water from land, citing that forests were just as peaceful to them as a body of water was, and that there was really no difference, that it was about being in nature that made them feel these peaceful, blissful feelings, rather than water itself. I also really enjoyed this question, as I got a lot of fun words and stories from people that I never expected to hear about the feelings that water gives them.
I think water makes me more peaceful than staring at trees. I think the sound of water and the noises that it makes is a lot more comforting, considering I grew up by the water. So whenever I'm near it, it just brings me back. I think water gets me more out of my head than land. I think land is a bit more grounding. Like, being landlocked definitely makes me anxious. It also just makes me miss the ocean and the noise. I like how non-stagnant it is. Like, the land is very hard, and it's like, I don't know, there's not as much life to it, I guess. Do you think this body of water is healthy? Are you aware of any threats to its health?
Once again, people were divided within this question, whether it was at the Montlake Cut or Golden Gardens. For the people that said they believed the body of water is healthy, they pointed to the movement in the water, the clearness, the cleanliness, and the color of the water. They also cited that people were swimming in it and jumping in, so there didn't seem to be anything adamantly wrong about it. However, for those saying that it seemed unhealthy, especially at the Montlake Cut, people pointed to the boats going around, the beer cans being thrown for the college students, and in general, just seeing oil and other pollutants in the water. As for Golden Gardens, people brought up runoff and other issues, especially considering the nearby road and the influx of people during the summertime. Quite a few people also brought up algae blooms and other natural occurrences that can affect the health of water. Overall, though, this didn't seem to deter people from interacting with the water, or even getting in it, even if they thought it was slightly unhealthy. In their minds, it was healthy enough for them to swim in. A bunch of people also brought up what I meant by healthy, whether it was healthy for humans or if the water itself was healthy. When asked about threats, some people shrugged and simply said, "I don't know," while others got into various reasons, from ranting about capitalism and how all of that is to blame, whereas others got into issues like ocean acidification, global warming, land development, etc., etc. Quite a few people at Golden Gardens did bring up past closures of the beach, stating that they did remain in the know of how healthy the water was and kept up with websites that I did end up using it for data mining. As for the Montlake Cut, many college students have chosen to ignore potential harmful threats to the body of water, such as when there are harmful bacteria reports, and choose to simply dive in or kind of just say, there's enough water moving through it, I'll be all right. Look at everyone else doing it, I'll be all right. Additionally, it is more difficult to find water reports and testing on the specific area of the Montlake Cut since it isn't a quote-unquote recognized body of water, as a part of Lake Union in the Ship Canal, meaning that water isn't regularly tested there. I did, however, find one site of Lake Union that was tested right by the Montlake Cut where many students jump in that did prove useful to my research.
I mean, it's the ocean, so I think it's healthier than like some places like Magnuson. I think in the Pacific Northwest, we probably do like the best we can to keep it that way. Obviously, there's like a lot of pollution. There's like a lot of cruise ships and stuff like that, obviously aren't the best for the health of the water. But yeah, I think maybe comparatively, we have the resources to try and keep it cleaner than maybe other countries. Do you believe this body of water is alive? Why do you believe that?
My favorite question to ask people was this one. It sparked a lot of thought and kind of made people think. There was a variety of answers here, and people sometimes had all of the answers, and they would say everything that everyone else had said or come up with something completely different. Many people did believe that the body of water they were at, whether it was the Montlake Cut or Golden Gardens, was alive. People were split in this category of whether it was alive because of the life it held from the ecosystems within it, or simply the motions of the water, to a more spiritual answer. Many people just said, I am a spiritual kind of person. To me, the water is alive. Many people humanized the water, personified it, gave it a kind of soul, quote for quote, which made it alive. Whereas other people just stuck firm in their belief that it was alive because it had fish, for example, and it had organisms and bacteria in it that were alive. And if it is being supported by this body of water, of course it's alive. If it can make something else be alive, it is alive. There were other, of course, people who disagreed and said, no, this body of water isn't alive. It's just a body of water. It can't have life. There is no heartbeat. There is no thought to it. There were some people that admitted that they did not think the body of water was alive, but they would love to get to there. And of course, there were some people that were very split on this issue. They did see the body as water alive, but they also didn't. They understood both sides. It was a difficult decision for them to come to, and honestly, in these 5-minute interviews, I wasn't looking for all of those answers. If they weren't sure, they weren't sure. Many people cited spirituality or religion for more yes answers. Other people cited science for these same yeses. And other people cited science for the reason they said no. Overall, it really was people's personal opinion and personal relationship with this body of water, whichever one it was, that made them believe if it was alive or not. And many people carried this same belief for bodies of water in general, not just the specific body of water they were at that day.
Oh, yes, absolutely, it's alive. Oh, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of just an unspoken thing. So I think the entire embodiment of it is a living, breathing thing. I put a more human aspect on it. Everything has some type of spirit or soul or something. But I don't think it's alive just because I'm alive, I guess. Like it would be here anyway, so. And it feeds a bunch of other things, like thousands of things live in it as well.
I had a chance to interview a few quote-unquote water professionals about their relationship with water. I asked, how does your scientific knowledge of water and its systems affect how you interact with water? They had very similar answers about how boats can cause pollution and fecal bacteria from dogs or small children. They also brought up answers about consumerism and the relationship that consumerism and capitalism has with water. One of my favorite quotes from Professor Richard Watts on this question is, "The kid in the film The Sixth Sense says, 'I see dead people.' For my part, I see waste streams." I also had a chance to ask these professionals if they thought that humans had a responsibility to and for the water, and many brought up access to fresh water as a human universal right, creating the need for us to be responsible for the conditions of clean water. And like many others, they also brought up that it isn't just about humans. A lot of the planet, whether it's other life forces or just simple the planet itself, depend on water. When asked about how they think humans view their interactions with water, they talked about how humans see it as depending upon social, cultural, and geographical locations. Depends on needs, standards of living, cultural settings. For example, people in Seattle aren't going to think a lot about their water due to it just coming out of their tap, coming out of their showers. They don't have to worry about where they're getting their water from or if it's clean. They kind of just expect it and don't think about it. When asked if they thought that leisurely activities had an effect or impact on the health of bodies of water, most professionals said yes, or probably, stating that leisurely activities have been heavily industrialized in our day and age. Many of our leisurely activities have negative externalities associated with them. Professors struggled to answer how do you think people are affected by bodies of water, but they did appreciate the question. Many cited different philosophers and scientists, but ultimately came to the idea that water is a very not grounding force, but the opposite of it. You feel a lot more when you're in it or when you're looking at it. It makes you feel good, and it has the ability to make you feel bad if it's polluted, privatized, or out of reach. Many cultures have important relationships with water, showing how there is a direct impact with humans and water, emotionally, if not physically. I, of course, asked these professors if they thought that these bodies of water were alive. They all said yes. Many talked about how their own research and understanding of water led them to believe this, but you couldn't put it into human terms. Rivers are alive, water's alive, lakes are alive, but in, I quote, ways that surpass the logics of aliveness that dominate human thinking. In addition to these interviews, I did data mining and my own water testing to see what the water quality was like at Golden Gardens in the Montlake Cut. It proved difficult to find information for both of these, with information for Golden Gardens only appearing during summer months and information for the Montlake Cut only being through Lake Union. However, within these, I did notice trends of more summery times inflating with more bacteria in many places. Now, I can't say for certain if the bacteria is because of human activity, whether it's leisurely or from boats. It is possible that there is a connection. There's no doubt in my mind that there is a human influence on the quality and health of water, as proven in the Anthropocene era we are in, and how it is climate change and global warming that is a driving force for unhealthy bodies of water. However, many of these issues can be related more to industrial things, so it's uncertain if human leisurely activities such as swimming or fishing, or maybe even paddleboarding, or boating without a motor, can affect the water like this. It is for certain, though, that how people interact with water does influence how they see water and view water and respect it. If people have seen the water as something they can simply take from it, they're not going to respect it as much. If people understand that there is a relationship with water and that water gives and takes, they're going to respect it more, leave the waterfront cleaner than they found it, and kind of appreciate it more. And this is seen in answers through how they see the water and how it gives them certain feelings that land cannot, and how it brings people peace or makes them feel like they're floating. However, the same goes for the more negative people. If they don't see the water as something that gives them a new feeling, they're not going to treat it with as much respect. And sadly, across all humans, there's always going to be a passive responsibility. They're going to see other humans as the problem, that they've done nothing wrong, it's not their trash, they do not have to pick it up. So I hate to be negative, because I do think there are a lot of people out there who care about the water and actually respect it, but I do think people think more highly of themselves. I think they think that they respect the water a lot more than they actually do. I don't think they're aware that all of their actions, no matter how big or small, can have an effect on the water, whether it is water as an element or its health. You may be wondering why I chose a video essay as a presentation of my research. Well, when it comes down to it, think about how when you go to a body of water, how many pictures you take. And if you're not the type, look around, see how many other people are taking photos. I hope to get that same message across of how pretty water is. It is something that we should be interacting with, whether it's through photos or physically, but it is something we must be respectful about.